milk. Of course, they sold to Borden's Condensed Milk down on the river there, and they sold to other different places, wherever they could get the best price. You know how that is, Nick. You always try to get the best price. Well, anyway. And then they raised potatoes, and we have an old ledger over there showing that their early place that they planted the potatoes was on the island. And it told just exactly how they planted those potatoes and what fertilizer they used and everything. And then they had hickory nuts. We had quite a few trees up in one of the fields. So we sold hickory nuts, we sold apples, we sold hay, we sold eggs, we sold chickens. And Simon was also a cattle dealer. And he bought cows over the mountain and drove them over the mountain back home. That was quite a trip. They had a girl, Hannah Fuller, and she worked in the house, and for 6 months she got $18. And then I think it was probably her brother, I'm not sure of the relationship, but Eugene Fuller, he worked on the farm, and he got $16.50 a month and $179 a year. And later on in the book, you'll notice that Eugene Fuller got married. It mentions there that
her name was Isabel.
Yeah. And Annie, well, she worked in the flower garden, of course, and in the vegetable garden, and it tells all about what they planted and so on. And Simon, he bought 4 young cows in April 1887. And Annie, she named them. She named them Daisy, and Pink, and Cherry, and Blue Jay. I don't know where she got the names from, but anyway, that's what she named them. July 22nd, 1887, lightning struck the church steeple here in Walk Hill, and in Mr. Borden's cornfield. So you see, Mr. Borden was around at that time. And in August, they went to Galeville Festival, and they heard the Home Farm Band, so that must have been something to do with the Borden Home Farm. In August 1887, they all went to Minnewaska. They went up there for the day. That was a big time. But she said, it just wasn't as nice as Mohawk. The year before they'd gone to Mohawk, and that was much nicer. And then now I'll come on to tell you about the blizzard of '88, because that's, of course, important. The first part of March, Cornelia's brother, Everett Bogardus, who lived in New Paltz, had died. And so she had gone up by train, of course, to New Paltz. And so she was up there to the funeral and so on. And this blizzard started on Saturday. Well, then Guard, he went to the train. He thought he was going to pick up his mother, but the train hadn't even left Kingston yet because the road was blocked with snow. And there was 2 or 3 feet of snow, and of course the wind was blowing. So she finally got home on Thursday, you know. So it just showed how things were tied up with the blizzard of '88. And they wouldn't accept any milk at Borden's because they couldn't get through to New York City. So that was a problem. So they had to bring the milk back home. And Annie makes some note of that. She had to do a lot of churning. And so she churned 22 pounds of butter. And then there was a note there that said that there was 4 feet of snow in New York City. And then In Shangham Horse, Frank Mintz mentions particularly about the blizzard of '88 too. And so he tells about the men that worked over at the Crowell brick roll factory. And they would meet at 6:30 in the morning over at Bridge Street corner and Walk Hill Avenue. And they would meet 6:30 because they had to be at work at 7 o'clock. So, of course, the men all got over there. And, but then got across the bridge and tried to get down Lippincott Road. They got lost. They couldn't find where they were in the fields of Lippincott Road. And so here they were out there. They finally came to the Dwark Hill, Stuart. And then from the Dwark Hill, they decided they could make it up to the brick mill. So they didn't get there till noon.
And they were probably docked to pay too.
Well, I don't know. And then
Those scrolls were tough.
It went on, and it said that that'd be your great grandfather. Would it be?
Would be my
James B.
James B. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he had some kind of a store over there.
It was like a company store.
Yeah, he had a store. So he was selling them all sorts of things because they couldn't get back home.
They got them coming and going.
Yeah, things pretty well planned anyway. So they said that a lot of those fellas were stayed over there. They couldn't get back home for a week. Oh. And then we know that Guard, he bought David Mulford's property, which was next to the farm, for $2,000. And this is the farm where, well, Stewart owns it now, but it was owned by Herman Mayland years ago. And he was going to build a house in the spring there. And while they were building the house, they moved into Simon's tenant house, which was a little house down by the river, where my mother and dad later lived and where I was born. And Ida and Guard had a daughter, Kitty Cornelia, and she was born in 1886. And then they had another daughter, Ida May, and she was born in May of 1888. And the house wasn't finished over there where they were building the new house. So Ida May was born over in the Du Bois homestead. And much, much later, Kitty, she worked in the post office when Harrison McElhone was postmaster. Harrison McElhone had come back from Mountainville, and he bought a house down the road from the place where Guard had built that house. And this house, when Harrison died, Annie inherited that house, and later she sold it to Herman Stoutner for $1,400. So, Vera, you know that house. What I'm talking about. Because Eddie and Vera Edsel lived there. And now Bill and Nancy Hecht live there. Yeah. So that's the house that I'm talking about. And then later on, Annie bought a house on Church Street, and she sold that house to Eli and Wagner. And Simon owned land in Walk Hill. They called it the Basin at that time. And it was, the taxes were only $2 or $3 on that land, but that was the land that now is Du Bois Street. And Annie built a house on Du Bois Street. And it's the second house in on the left-hand side.